Hey, everybody. Welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I'm Christy Brower, here with my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going. Had to take one of the puppies to the vet this afternoon.
Oh, no.
Poor little Bruno. His eyes have been red and itchy, bothering him for a few days, and we've been giving him some Benadryl, thinking maybe he's just so darn little and low to the ground, and he goes
Sure.
outside and runs around in the tall grass and, wondering if it's allergies. But they were bad this morning and green and goopy, and I went, nah,
Mm.
it's vet time. So we
Mm.
went, and they said it's allergies.
Huh. Just
So,
what you thought.
yeah, but they gave him a little steroid salve to go on him twice a day, and they actually look less swollen now than they did
Oh, good.
earlier. The vet said you should see a pretty good improvement even in a day or two. So, yeah. So
No,
he's a
that's
little
good
bit
news.
clingy and cuddly, and
Mm-hmm.
it's clear he doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm. Poor little guy.
Well, and the other dogs are like, they won't leave his eyes alone. You know, they can see it too, so they're constantly trying
Mm-hmm.
to lick at his eyes, and it hurts, and he cries, and yeah, so my poor little Bruno, they were super sweet to him at the vet, though. They had a
Oh,
fit over
good.
how cute he is and how tiny
Oh,
he is.
I bet.
I talked to the vet because, he's a polydactyl, and that has worried me a little bit. Like,
Right.
could he have any, health
Other
issues? Because,
issues.
yeah, extra toes are, not ideal, really.
Mm-hmm.
He said his heart sounds great. Everything seems good. So, he said we could run some blood tests if we need to at some point, but he said he's not concerned. So,
Well, nice. Glad to hear that.
yeah, we'll take it.
Yes,
So,
we will.
yeah. And I have a darling video of him.
Oh, yes. Let's see it.
This is a video I took yesterday. They go out back and play and go potty, and then sometimes they really get naughty about wanting to come back in. And I get it. They want to play outside, and I'll take my work outside with me if I can, but I can't always go outside for an hour every time they want to go out.
Sure.
So, and I'm just not confident letting them go out by themselves yet. And we have a
Yeah.
really good fenced yard, but
They're
they
so
are
little.
so little. Yeah. Bruno can sneak under doors. I mean, there's just, you can't trust anything at this point, right?
Mhm.
Plus, I just worry about big birds. My backyard's, got dogs and pigs running around, so I'm not too worried about other animals, except for like a hawk or an owl could make off with those boys, and I'd never know what happened.
Right.
So anyway, I'm a little paranoid about it. So they have to stay in unless I'm out there. But
Mhm.
the only way I get them in is by squeaking a toy. So I did a grocery order yesterday, and I ordered some more squeaky toys.
Ah.
Well, holy shit, do these toys squeak? Oh my God.
Oh, no.
But Bruno couldn't figure out how to play with it. Luca grabbed his and was squeaking it and throwing it all over and chasing it, and Bruno could not figure out what to do. So I have a little video of him playing with it that's pretty cute. So and that was pretty much the whole day.
he he just thought if he barked at it long enough.
He finally figured out that if he jumped on it, it would squeak. And
Mhm.
so there was more. I tried to get some video of that later, and he was on the couch. It just didn't work very well. But he would kind of make a run at it and hit it with both of his front paws, and it would make a squeak. And then he would bark at it for a while, and then he'd jump on it and squeak it. Oh my gosh. Hilarious. But then his rude brother started gathering up. There's five of them. I only gave him two initially. Then I gave him two more because I'm an idiot. And pretty soon, Luca was laying on three of them and chewing on one of them.
Oh.
And so you know how it goes. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
I do.
all's well here. We're just, deep into puppy business. That's all.
It sounds like it. Well,
What you been doing all day?
all's well here too. Well, one of the things I did is Rhonda cleaned up our patio and planted our flowers on Monday, and she had sprayed off all our patio like chair pads and stuff. So I put the
Mhm.
whole patio back together. So we are ready for barbecuing set.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that.
Nice. I love it.
Well, tonight is our Wednesday night case updates. I just want to welcome our chatters Cranky, Colleen, Fran, Elizabeth, Sherry, RJ. Welcome. It's nice to have you all here. And if you're listening after the fact or you're listening and not chatting, welcome, welcome. We have so much stuff going on. Really
Mhm.
interesting things are
Yeah.
happening in a lot of our cases
Mhm.
right now. And we do have some really good news. Katie, I wanted you to start with the rape custody case that we covered this week.
Yes.
Good news in this case, friends.
Very good news in this case. Turns out when things hit the press and there's public outcry, sometimes some heads roll.
Yeah.
And that happened this time. So it's good and questionable news, but this is
Hmm.
the case of Krista Abelseth and John Barnes. Krista was raped by John Barnes when she was 16. Uh, the only real question is, was it statutory rape or was it rape? It doesn't matter. It was rape
It
because
was
she
rape
was
either
16.
way.
She was rape
Right.
either way. He's made some very strong public statements that she had a fake ID and she was in a bar and he wouldn't have known, and this was absolutely not rape. John, you had sex with a 16-year-old when you were 30 and got her pregnant. It was
Yeah,
rape.
it was.
There's no other way to say it.
No.
Anyway, so as you know, we had reported earlier that Krista has lost custody of her 16-year-old daughter to this man and now
Mm,
is ordered to pay him child support. And
ridiculous.
all of it is just so freaking sick.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Judge Jeffrey Cash is the one who pulled this absolutely inane bullshit. And after a lot of outcry, he has rescinded that order
Hmm.
and temporarily transferred physical custody of the minor to a third party guardian.
Which is ridiculous because her
Hmm.
mother hasn't done anything to lose her in the first place.
No, this has all been
But
complete
my
BS.
main concern is for this child, this
Yeah.
16-year-old girl who has been forced to live with her mother's rapist. My God.
The
This
judge
is
also decided that the 16-year-old should have her own attorney
uh
representing her, which is
yeah,
correct.
she
Yeah.
should because at her age, in Idaho, at her age, if there's a custody dispute, she is old enough to choose which parent she
Mhm.
lives with.
Mhm.
And I don't know in Louisiana, if it's the same, but
Mhm.
it's a horrifying thought to think that this kid is in the middle
Mhm.
of this with no say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There have also been allegations, we're learning now, that he had been sexually, physically, and verbally abusive of that child.
Well, of course he has.
Yeah.
I mean, those
And
leopards don't change their spots.
this information was brought to CPS by a school counselor,
Oh my gosh.
not her mom. A school counselor called
This-
CPS and said, this child is being abused by her dad. And
mm,
what the judge decided to do about it is give him full custody.
yeah. This is so epically screwed up. It's just horrifying.
There still needs to be a serious investigation into this judge
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
how the hell did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. How did it happen in the first place? Well, and also into the police department that never
Mhm.
investigated the rape allegation either. What
Mhm.
the hell?
Yep. Yep. So now, of course, the police have investigated it and turned it over to the prosecutor to, real quick here, because
Hmm.
it seems like hmm,
Trying to
maybe
save
we messed up.
face.
They said we messed up, but rest assured, we've never messed up before, and we'll never mess up again. This was an isolated incident.
Oh, good
First
God.
of all, bullshit. But
Yeah.
second of all, even if it was, why?
Yeah.
Why? Because as we know, John Barnes owns a business. a marketing business that represents the police department.
Yeah.
And he's made it real clear to Krista lots of times that he's well connected in law enforcement. And if she ever tries to cause any trouble for him, he'll just take her daughter away from her, which is exactly what he did.
Which is exactly what he did. Yeah.
Even though the school, a third party independent, had gone to CPS with serious concerns about abuse at her dad's house.
Mm.
It's just unbelievable. So I think her getting her own attorney is a great idea. I think
Mm-hmm.
this is what should have happened in the first place, and that we will see the right thing hopefully start happening for this child at this point.
God, I hope so. This is so horrifying and terrifying, frankly.
Mhm. Yep.
Well, thank you for that. I'm glad that at least we know that she's now not
Mhm.
forced to live with this man,
Mhm.
and that there's some recognition that her rights need to be acknowledged here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome to those that came in after we started. Crystal, Brandy, JR, welcome, welcome. And yes, Cranky, stupid
Yep.
ass judge, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Speaking of stupid ass situations, the Dylan Rounds case. We've
Mm.
covered Dylan Rounds last week. Dylan Rounds is missing from southern Utah, sort of the Utah Arizona or
Mhm.
Nevada border. And I'm really proud of his mom. When I spoke to her on the phone, I told her, I said, "You be loud, don't give
Mhm.
up, don't stop talking to every media source you can get. You have to
Mhm.
be loud. It's the only way." Well, she's now been interviewed on national TV. She's been interviewed here on East Idaho News and a whole
Mhm.
bunch of other places and true crime podcasts and lots of really good stuff happening.
Mhm.
Also, the FBI has now involved themselves in this case
Yes.
because suddenly the police have decided that maybe a crime has been committed here.
Mhm.
But they've waited so long
Yep.
to look at it from that standpoint, and they have been looking for Dylan, but they've not been treating this as though a crime has been committed when it's pretty damn clear it has.
Mhm.
So there's not a lot to update as far as his location or anything yet, but we know that the FBI has now stepped in and said, "Yeah, we're going to be a part of this,"
Mhm.
which that makes me happy. I'm hoping, it just seemed like the local Utah and Nevada police departments or county sheriff's offices have been slow
Yeah.
to take this seriously and have not really been there for the family the way that they ought to be, and have
Mhm.
not really given enough of a shit about Dylan.
Mhm.
And I think we're seeing that start to happen. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping that's going to result in some, at least some news for the family to find out what the hell happened here.
Mhm.
So we're going to keep on keeping an eye out on that.
Mhm.
Katie,
They also fired they had a private
oh,
investigator.
the private investigator. Yeah, this guy, Jim Terry.
Mhm. Who was way more busy trying to track down conspiracy theories than he was trying to find Dylan until
So
they
bad.
finally had enough and fired him.
He was really terrible to Dylan's parents. And
Mhm.
yeah, just all of these crazy conspiracy theories rather than actually putting in the shoe leather to figure out what the hell's happened to this kid.
Yep.
So they've made a big public statement that they are no longer affiliated with him. They don't want anything to do with him. And it's been really ugly.
Mhm. Drama, 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 drama.
Well, and these people don't need this shit. They are
No.
trying to find their 19-year-old kid.
Yep.
They don't need ambulance chasers and a bunch of crap going on.
No.
Apparently, there have been a lot of conspiracy theories and a lot of unwanted what ifs
Yes.
that are. It's why we don't read current cases.
Yep.
This is why.
Yep.
Because right now, what matters is for the family to have all of the help and support they can get with law enforcement to do what they need to do.
Yep.
Other people need to step the hell back.
Mhm.
And it's one thing to report on the case, but to get mixed up in stuff like that and
Mhm.
scaring people and winding people up, no.
No,
They're
adding to the hysteria, that doesn't help.
no, it
That doesn't
doesn't.
help.
And they are living their worst nightmare right now. And what they need is people to stay out of the fray, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Brandy said, listening to him made me so sick. I was cheering Candace on when she said, I'm not listening to this anymore, and hung up. Yeah.
Mhm.
The guy is a creeper.
Mhm.
So I'm very glad that they're not working with him anymore.
Mhm.
Certainly a name to keep in the back of your head, because
Well, yeah,
nobody else needs this experience either.
no. This reminds me a lot of the PI that was hired first by the family, then fired, then hired by the community to look into the Dior Kunz case,
Yes.
who was also extremely inflammatory. And he had the
Yeah.
people around here with torches and pitchforks, man.
Yeah.
And I don't deny that I do believe that Dior's parents had everything to do with his disappearance. But what this guy was doing wasn't finding Dior.
No.
It
No.
wasn't getting charges brought. It was just causing a lot of hate and chaos and commotion. And
Yeah.
frankly, I think that his efforts are part of the reason why they never have stepped forward and told the truth, because
Yep.
he made them extremely unsafe
Yeah,
from
he
the
did.
get go.
He did. He did. And that's not how this is supposed to work, you
No.
know? But it also, and I can understand why people go for PIs when you have, like in Dylan Round's
Yeah.
situation where you have law enforcement that seem to be not all that concerned.
Hmm. Or maybe not all that good. We've
Mhm.
taken a lot of things for granted, things that we assume about the police force.
Right.
But if Uvalde has taught us anything,
Oh, good Lord.
it's that not all police forces are created equal. I mean, I look
Oh,
at
oh,
Madison and Fremont and the amazing job they have done with the De Belvallo case and the hard work that has been put in and everything they've done. And I take for granted that every police force is that good. They aren't.
no. Well, and even those local ones that you just named aren't always either.
No, it's true.
But in this particular case, and I will say we have to credit
Yeah.
the FBI too, because they came in very early on,
Hmm.
helped as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
these 2 counties have worked really hard
Hmm.
at doing this right and taking it
Hmm.
seriously.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that in Dylan Round's case quite yet.
No.
So, but I think we're about to, because when the feds come in, everybody kinda straightens up a
Hmm.
bit.
Yeah.
So, we'll keep an eye on that and let you know what,
Yeah.
continues to roll out. Katie, the parents of Gabby Petito were in court today. You wanna tell us a little bit about that?
They sure were. So, as we know already, they filed suit against the Laundries. And they'd filed suit. They're seeking for around $30,000 in damages for the mental anguish they suffered due to the deceit of the Laundries. So basically, in the filing from March, they're saying this is what the filing says. Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie exhibited extreme and outrageous conduct, which constitutes behavior under the circumstances which goes beyond all possible bounds of decency and is regarded as shocking, atrocious, and utterly intolerable in a civilized community.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're saying that they absolutely believe that the Laundries knew that Gabby was dead and they had a pretty good sense of where Gabby was. And they
Mhm.
refused to tell the
Right.
Petitos or law enforcement, and they allowed all of those days of suffering and that search to happen. I think hoping they'd never find her, maybe. But I think they were
Mhm.
just really kind of hoping to just get it to all go away in some way. But the
Right.
Petitos and law or the Petitos are trying to prove that, or the Petito family is trying to prove that they knew. They
Yeah.
knew and they didn't say.
Yep.
So this is a civil trial, not a criminal trial, of course, but
Right.
or matters. So they went to court today basically to present their evidence to the judge to see if he would allow this to move forward.
Right.
He said he'll issue a written ruling within 2 weeks. Laundries were not there.
Yeah.
The Petito family was there. Laundries were just represented by their attorney.
Yet again,
Hmm.
they don't give a flying fuck about
Nope.
Gabby or
Nope.
Gabby's family.
Nope.
They
Not
can't
at
even be
all.
bothered to show up to court.
Hmm.
And I think that the statement made in the, filing is not it is very true. We have all been absolutely
Hmm.
dumbfounded by their behavior through this entire thing,
Hmm.
and it's true. Like, this just goes
Hmm.
beyond any reasonable human's idea
Yeah.
of what a parent would do if their child was with someone who went missing and they
Mhm.
knew things. Well, like one of the things they pointed out in the filing is that the Petito or the Laundries took Brian and went on a vacation when he got home, which is true.
Yeah.
They went camping.
Mhm.
While Gabby is missing, her family is trying to find her. They
Uh-huh.
won't talk to anybody. And they're
Yep.
off
And
camping.
they're refusing to talk to Gabby's family. They won't have anything to do
Yeah,
with them.
blocked them on social media and on their
Yep.
phones. And then they go camping?
I mean, these are people whose children were engaged to each other. They have
Yeah.
been in each other's homes. They've spent time together. They weren't
Well,
strangers. They
they
knew
had
them.
lived with the Laundries for a year.
Yeah.
Gabby had lived in their house for a year,
Mhm. Yep.
and they did not give a shit about her.
Not a bit. Not a
No.
bit. So the argument that their attorney is making is that they had no obligation to turn any information over to law enforcement or to Petitos or anybody else. That they had no obligation to say shit.
And it's scary because
He might not be wrong.
he might not be wrong legally.
Yep.
I mean, morally, no. But legally,
Yep.
the crime had already occurred.
Yep.
And, they have the right to protect themselves, right? To protect
Mhm.
against self incrimination, all that stuff. And that's what he's saying. And it may end up there. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
make the Laundries good people,
Right.
but this
Yep.
may not go anywhere, which
It
I
may
think
not.
is really unfortunate.
But that's what their lawyer, their Laundrie's lawyer is saying is that he said they had no obligation or, yeah, well, basically no obligation to say anything.
How screwed up is that? You
Hmm.
know?
Yep. Oh, duty. He said they had no duty or obligation to speak. And the Petitos are saying, okay, their attorney said, even if they were uh, exercising some of their rights to not implicate their son, which is possible,
Mhm.
they could have made an anonymous call.
Right.
They could have done anything to stop the bleeding, but they
Right.
didn't. Instead,
Tried
yeah, they
anything at
went
all.
camping. They hid out in their house. They let Brian go kill himself
Yeah, they did.
and also let that waste law
And
enforcement's
then
time
when
for
it
a
was
month.
yeah, when they finally went to help look for him, they found him almost immediately.
They walked directly to his body. They have been terrible.
They have.
Yep.
They have. And right, Cranky. Cranky says, "Gee, my kid comes home with his fiance's van and not her. No problem, right?" So
Mhm.
cold-hearted. Right?
Yep.
If that was you and that was your kid, I have a 26-year-old son. If that
Yep.
happened, I would be kicking that kid's ass to the police department.
Right? Yeah.
What the hell has happened?
Mhm.
I cannot
Yep.
imagine doing that. And
Mhm.
I can't imagine it tells you a lot about the way they raised Brian
Yeah.
to begin with, that
Yep.
they would be comfortable with this.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
well, we'll see what the judge has to say, but it was pretty gross that the Laundries didn't
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah. Pretty typical
Mhm.
of their cowardly bullshit behavior. So,
Yeah,
yeah, but there'll be a ruling within 2 weeks about whether or not they will allow this to carry on. But yes, as a parent, yeah,
yeah,
as a
yeah,
parent to watch another family go through this, how?
yeah. I
Yep.
I don't know.
It's unthinkably selfish behavior.
It is. It is. Speaking of unthinkably selfish, Ghislaine Maxwell, not friend of the show. So her sentencing is coming up on the 28th of this month, so you're in June. And right now, there are two victims that want to speak at the sentencing that her attorney is trying to block. And it's an
Mhm.
interesting conversation because both of these women were adults at the time that they alleged they were assaulted by
Mhm.
Maxwell and Epstein. They are not specifically named in Maxwell's charges, but they have made it clear that they are also victims and have said that in the past and have tried to be a part of this and be supportive of the victims that were minors at the time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what the judge does with this. The, the rules around who can speak at a sentencing are pretty broad, And a lot of it is up to the judge. And so the judge can determine, but Maxwell's attorneys are saying that she's not been convicted of any crime against these two people, which is true.
Mm.
And so I don't know. We'll see what happens here. That's the hard part, is that there's never really going to be justice for all of Maxwell and Epstein's victims,
No.
because not even all of them have ever been named in the trials.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
But also in Ghislaine Maxwell's bullshit, her attorney has asked for a shorter prison sentence than the recommended 20 years because an inmate has threatened to kill her. You know, because jail sucks and women in jail hate women who traffic girls.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a reason to shorten anyone's sentence. It might be a reason to keep them in solitary to protect them, but it's certainly not a reason to shorten her sentence. But the
Again, the entitlement.
endless bitching here, yeah.
The entitlement is so shocking and laughable. Ghislaine, nobody likes you, bro. They
No.
are going to be mean to you. They're going to kick your ass every chance they get because
Yeah.
they hate you. That's
Yeah.
your problem.
You made this bed, dude. You made this bed. Yeah.
Yep. Sucks to suck.
Yeah, it really does. But they're picking on me, Your Honor. Man, that just never quits with her, does it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to her sentencing, although then the appeals will really begin. But at least, I don't know, then she'll. But she's just in jail now. So then when they put her in prison, she won't even be housed probably with that person who's already threatened to kill her. So there's not a lot of reason there.
Right.
Yeah. JR, thank you. Yes, congrats on our 5K. We finally made 5K subs, you guys.
Yes, we
Freaking
did.
finally. It's taken a while, but we're happy about it.
We've finally gotten there. We've grown up.
We have.
Mm-hmm.
We have definitely grown up. Let's see. What else have we got? We have so much. Oh, Katie, you want to tell us about what's going on with the Crumbleys right now? Speaking of whiny bitches.
Some more whiny bitching.
Yes.
So, at some point, the Crumbley's attorneys have never liked the fact that the prosecutor is so quick to get behind a mic. Yeah. And at some point here in the not too, near past or far past, she called them liars in front of a mic.
Yeah.
Because they're liars.
Yes.
And anyway, so they are now petitioning the court to punish her and also basically muzzle her and not let her speak to the press anymore, because that was really inflammatory to call them liars. Now, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. A tainted jury pool is never a good thing.
Right.
And they already think they can't get a fair trial where they are. Dude, you can't get a fair trial on the moon at this point.
And that's your own damn fault.
That's your own fault
I
for
have
what your kid
no
did and
sympathy
what
for
you
that.
did, right? Come on. But, and she maybe should lay off, honestly, just because of the fact that we don't want a mistrial. We do
No.
not. This is a precedent-setting case for school shootings,
So
and we
much
don't want a
so.
mistrial. We want a
Right.
strong message sent. But she's been pretty loud, so they're
Mhm.
crying to the judge that they think it's very unfair and she needs to stop talking about them like that. I don't know.
They're charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. So are they also mad they're being called murderers?
Right.
Hey, come on. I think lying is the least of your worries right now, dummies.
Yeah. You'd think so. But anyway, their feelings are quite hurt. So there's also a lawsuit that has been filed
Yes.
by a bunch of students from Oxford High School demanding that the school do something to get them better safety and better transparency.
Yeah.
Because they don't want this to ever happen again. And now they're all scared to death to come to school.
Who wouldn't be?
Mm-hmm.
Who wouldn't
So
be? And there's been plenty come out that really makes you question the actions of the school as well.
mhm,
Everybody fucked up in this situation.
yep. So one of the parents' name is Alicia Phelps, and she said, "Putting our children's names in a federal lawsuit is a desperate attempt. With the lack of investigation, there's a lack of transparency. With the lack of transparency, there's a lack of accountability. If there's no accountability, trust cannot be rebuilt."
Right.
So they want to know, what are you going to do about it?
Right, right. How do these kids continue in this
Hmm.
school?
But the school said, "Oh, hey, now we're going to get on that. We're going to do an internal investigation as to what happened here on our end that could have been done differently. But we aren't going to do that until the civil suits are over because the school's getting sued right and left."
Yeah.
And they said, "We can't really do that until the civil suits are over. So until then, sorry, bro. Maybe they just need to buy some of those bulletproof pads for their backpacks." They
Jesus
didn't say that.
Christ.
I said that. But,
But
that's
it's been
basically,
6
they're like,
months
"Sorry, don't
since
know what
that
to tell
shooting.
you."
Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
That's so screwed up.
Mhm. It is
Well,
very screwed up.
it is, particularly because, and let's talk about Uvalde. Um,
Yeah.
so several things going on with Uvalde, but one is they are tearing that school down. They're going to
Yes.
tear it down and build a new school. How could
Mhm.
you ever expect children or school staff to ever set foot in that building again?
Yep. How?
Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that. But then you think about the Oxford kids, like, okay,
Yeah.
but they have to stay in that building?
Yeah.
Like, come
They don't wanna
on.
go there.
Yeah. Why would they possibly want to go?
And
But
some of the kids maybe can go somewhere else, but some of them probably can't. Maybe their parents can't afford to drive them to another school district or bus them or put
right?
them in a private school. Maybe this is just what they've got, you know?
Yeah.
And in that instance, they deserve better than this.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. Speaking of deserve better, Uvalde. So
Yeah.
the school district police chief, Pete Arredondo, has now
Mhm.
finally been placed on leave.
Gosh.
The fact that
Took
he
a hot
hadn't
minute.
been
Yeah.
before, yes, Brandy, they did tear down Sandy Hook as well.
Mhm.
Um, so he's on leave now
Mhm.
because they're now saying that as the SWAT team basically stood in the hallway at Robb Elementary, the
Mhm.
door wasn't even locked.
Yep.
They could have just opened the door and solved it.
Yep.
But what a lot of the officers are saying is they were standing there at the ready with no orders.
Mhm. And this guy he's said so many things now. At one point he said he didn't know he was the person in charge. He figured at some point someone else had already taken over.
I mean, did it really matter? There were
Right.
children being gunned down in your school. Why
Mhm.
not everyone just take charge and get the hell in there?
Yeah.
This is such a nightmare. And, of course, there's a federal investigation going on now, and it's just getting
Mhm.
worse and worse.
Yeah. Oh,
But
the more the info comes out, the worse it gets, and it's just unbelievable. It's just unthinkable.
it is.
Yeah.
It is the absolute worst case scenario you could possibly imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm glad that they're maybe, I don't know, gonna remove some of these idiots that
Mhm.
screwed this up so royally. Why
Mhm.
why have they still been in their positions?
Yeah.
Doesn't make
Well,
any sense to me.
an article in the Texas Tribune from earlier today. A special agent from the Texas Department of Public Safety arrived 20 minutes after the shooting started. He asked another officer, "Are there still kids in the classrooms? If there are, they just need to get in there." Another officer said, "It's unknown at this time."
How
The
could they
agent,
not know?
the agent said, "Y'all don't know if there's kids in there? If there's kids, we need to get in there." And he said, "Whoever's in charge will determine that."
Oh my god.
So he waited for a minute and was like, "Nah." So he said, "Well, there are kids over there and I'm getting them out." So he started getting kids out from another section of the school, you know,
Mhm.
without having to be told to by someone who didn't know he was in charge. But,
It's so ridiculous.
All the while that we know that one of the officers that was there had received texts from his wife, who was a teacher,
Yeah.
who told him she was bleeding to death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They knew.
They
Those
knew,
kids were calling 911 on their cell phones from inside the school. They
begging
knew.
for help. They knew.
They knew and they didn't go in. They
Yep.
knew and they chose to just stand there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fine, lose your job for insubordination,
Yeah.
save some elementary school kids.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, which is more important?
Well, there's a lot of challenges too because the state and local agencies have refused to release records, refused to release camera footage, any cop cam footage.
Mm-hmm.
Local officials have tried to bar journalists from public meetings,
Yeah,
and there have been closed door hearings held by state lawmakers that should have been public. They're doing everything they can to keep things pretty quiet.
they are, but the feds are not going to let that happen.
No.
Fortunately, but it's all
Yep.
too little too late.
Yep. We also know that there was some talk that while we were waiting for other guns and for shields to come, ballistic shields, and now we know that they had those things from the get go.
They did. They had all of it.
Yep.
It's unthinkable. The whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. Ugh.
Yep.
Okay. I don't want to talk about Uvalde anymore. Tired of talking about Uvalde. Oh, let's talk about Patriot Front. So, Patriot
Bullshit.
Front, of course, is the dumbass group of neo Nazis that showed up at Pride at Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, a couple of weekends ago. Attempted to show up at Pride, were
Yeah.
caught, seen loading themselves into a U-Haul to drive to Pride, were pulled over and arrested. And y'all know the story. We've told you the story. So it's
Mhm.
come out in the news that there were some people that gave money to pay bail to get these fools
Mhm.
out. And one particular man named, let's say his name proudly,
Mhm.
Joshua Plotner,
Yeah.
paid $2,200 in bail to get about 7 men out.
Yeah.
According to the men who were bonded out, they don't even know this guy. And they're from multiple states. Like, he just wanted to support their organization by
Yeah.
spending money to get these fools bonded out. Is that
Yep.
just gross?
Mhm.
Why would there have been many times in which I wanted to pay somebody's bail if I could have. The water keepers, for example, or Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter protesters.
Mhm.
Patriot Front? Really?
Mhm.
Those guys deserved to sit their asses in jail as long as humanly possible.
Mhm.
So, anyway, just super gross. But hey, don't forget that dummy's name, Joshua Plotner of Craigmont. Let's
Yep.
hopefully somebody finds out where he works, because that's a bunch of crap.
Also, Patriot Front, it was $300 to bail out, right?
Yeah.
We know from the records that are coming out that several people had to get a bond. They could afford to fly there or travel there because none of
Yeah.
them were from there to be there for this bullshit, but had to get a bond. They had to get a bail bondsman to give them $300 to get out of jail. Wow.
Bunch of geniuses, friends. A bunch
How's
of
life in mommy's
geniuses.
basement again?
Right. Holy hell. One other thing in the Crumbleys, I forgot about this. So they the defense has tried to restrict pretrial publicity. They're trying to keep them out of the news as much as possible,
Mhm.
which cracks me up, I think, because what they did couldn't have been more public.
Mhm.
And the people's response was they make no case, and this is not an emergency, because they did an emergency supplemental motion to restrict pretrial publicity. And they
Mhm.
have no legitimate reason for it. Also, why is this an emergency? So Just wanted to tell you that part too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I do have one more thing on Patriot Front.
Oh, let's hear it.
This is a TikTok that went viral. This is a training video of some of these little boys playing G.I. Joe, and it's funny as hell.
It's so funny. It's so bad.
And I thought you guys might enjoy seeing it, so I'm going to pull it up.
Right, maybe I didn't illustrate that the first time. That's my mistake. But column left, or if I'm calling mark time, right? We're mark timing, and I go call or forward. Mark, that's fucked up. I should column or forward mark. You'll be like, oh, boom. Right? Yeah. I mean, stay in your spot. Don't move. Pivot.
Should probably mute that audio, or we're going to get in trouble for that.
And there you go, learning how to march. They're not sure. They had to have a little fight about it, but now we know. There's another video of them hiding behind shields that's funny as hell as well.
Oh, yes.
So you'll have to go search that out on TikTok. There's a whole series of these videos that are just hysterical, but
they really are, because
Cranky says they're doing jazzercise.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
In what situation do they need to march in a company like that? Like, what?
It's hard to know.
It really is. Were they going to march in the Pride Parade? Was that the plan? I'm so confused.
They've been practicing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a bunch of losers.
Mm-hmm.
Katie, you want to tell us a little bit about Adam Montgomery?
Yeah, so no big surprise really, but a report coming out about Adam that they're keeping him in 23 hours a day of solitary for his safety.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is jail. They have to keep you safe while you go through the process and get to prison or get out if you're innocent or found innocent. And so he gets 23 hours a day in his cell. He gets 1 hour out, and they said most of those days he spends on the phone. Probably talking to his attorneys and things, but
probably. But I think you should have to do that until he tells us where Harmony is.
Well, right.
When you say where your daughter is, then maybe you can have a little less time in your cell.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So he also requested to be transferred to their medical unit. Not really sure why, what the medical need is, but he was asked to be moved to the medical unit with where 8 inmates live, and he was denied that request because they said they can't guarantee his safety there.
I'll bet they can't. They can't.
They also, the jail has said that they received lots of cards for Adam on Harmony's birthday on June 7th.
Good.
But corrections officers did not deliver any of them.
Well, they should have. Come on.
All mail except legal documents is opened and before being passed to inmates. Okay, yes, of course. Corrections officials said the decision was made not to deliver the birthday cards to him, but keep them in a file instead. Personally, I say bullshit. No.
Make him read them all.
Yeah. That's his fan mail, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what those cards must say? I can think of what I would write in one.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Probably not YouTube safe.
Yeah. But anyway, but people are shady and I love it. You know, the fact that there was a huge campaign to send him cards on her birthday in jail.
Yeah.
Just to remind him, your daughter's still missing. Yeah. It's still your fault. You still need to fess up.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the other part of this, we reported last week that there was an apartment where Adam and Kayla, his ex-wife, had been living that had been searched. They took out portions of the sheeting on the walls. They took out portions of the floor. They took the refrigerator and replaced it with a new one. That's still all we know. There hasn't been a peep about what they did or didn't find.
Well, there's tons of forensic work to be done there, and it's part of an active investigation, so we might not know for a while.
Yeah. Her mother did say that she had been suspicious of that property in the past, and was really glad to see that they had finally searched it.
Good.
But that's literally all we know.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye on that because hopefully that's just stuff being processed at this point.
Yeah. Hopefully there's some good news there.
Yeah.
Or news. None of it's good, but
No, but at least news for the sake of her mother.
Yeah.
To know what's happened and where she is.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight, if you're listening to us live on Wednesday night, this is June 22nd of 2022, right after this live stream is our True Crime Case Update Cold Read Party. So that is the membership that we have on YouTube. And so we wanted to, we're going to start doing it after the Wednesday night case update in the third week of the month. So if you are already a member, just watch for that live stream to pop up and come join us, and you can give us a cold case to read for you, and we will. We only read cold cases, and we will, we'll each read, we'll take turns reading the cases and tell you what we see about what happened in that case. If you have not joined yet, you still have a few minutes. You go to the home screen of True Crime Paranormal on YouTube and click join. It's $4.99 a month to attend. We do this once a month. It's live. You can come and share your cases and hear what other people share. It's really a lot of fun. We've talked about some really interesting cases and situations, and every once in a while we like one so well we actually pull it out and make it into an episode. So that is coming up tonight at 8 p.m. Mountain. Right here on YouTube, if that's where you're watching us. And so we just wanted to invite you that if you haven't joined that already and you'd like to, now is a great time because we're going to be doing it right after this show.
Yep. Fun stuff.
Well, I think that's everything that we have.
I know. I think so. Nothing in De Balvallo. Nothing.
No, just kind of preparations happening for trial at this point, I think.
There wasn't even like a DL meeting this week. There was one order yesterday in Lori's file, and it was an order for grand jury transcripts.
Yeah.
Because her attorneys are still playing catch up, still don't have a lot of what they need.
Right.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that Mark Means didn't really share a lot with Mr. Archibald, and that he's still missing a lot of information that he needs because it hasn't been provided to him.
Right.
So, I mean, in order for the grand jury transcripts that's pretty standard. He needs those.
Yep, he does need those. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, of course, and let you know about everything else that we have going on and that we're covering. We're going to take a little break now, and then we will be back for the case update live stream at 8 p.m. Mountain.
Yep.
So thank you all very much for being here, joining us, participating in the chat, listening live or after the fact. We appreciate all of you.
Absolutely.
And you know it. We are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Thanks for being here.
Take care.